Hello, I am Deb Oraz from Roots Nutrition. And so we've been talking through the healthy eating series here. We started off with our detoxification series and the macronutrient series. And right now, I want to talk a little bit about micronutrients. So if you've been doing it weekly, this is week 3. Here we have, and then next week we will go over phytonutrients, which is super interesting plant-based nutrition. So right now for micronutrients, we're talking about, if we go back to our brick house analogy that we talked about during macronutrients, where the macronutrients are our bricks and the micronutrients would be that mortar between the bricks. So it's smaller amounts, but just as important for our body. If we do not have all of the micronutrients that our body needs, our metabolism is going to slow. We're not going to have as much energy. All of the processes in our body are not going to function well. So these micronutrients are very much needed. And sometimes we're feeling hungry and hungry and hungry because we're not feeding ourselves the nutrition that includes all of those micronutrients that we need. And in fact, in North America, some statistics here, like 68% of people are deficient in calcium, 90% in chromium, 75% in magnesium. I really see this one very commonly in my practice, and 80% in B6. So let's learn a little bit more about the micronutrients. So if we could break these down into vitamins and minerals. So the vitamins are our organic compounds, meaning they're made from carbon and oxygen and hydrogen. And the minerals are inorganic, meaning they're made from different elements. And so our organic are usually present in our food. And those are things like vitamin A, B, C, D, E, right? And inorganic are more like the things like magnesium and chromium, these macro and micro minerals. So this is a great visual. I love this visual of our vitamins. So this is the vitamin piece, the organic piece, right? And we have different foods that you can see, and it's kind of linked to colors. So if we're talking about vitamin A, it's a lot of the like deep orange colored foods like carrots, sweet potatoes. If we're talking about vitamin B, we could talk about chicken, some of our meats, some of our leafy vegetables. So this is just a good pictorial. Vitamin E is a lot of our seeds that we can get some of our vitamin E from. And I'll go into more in depth on each of these vitamins on the subsequent slides. But this is just a good summary slide. So vitamin A, right, really helpful for our vision. And so we want to make sure that we're getting some of these vitamin A foods. Also, because vitamin A is a fat soluble vitamin, we want to make sure that we're having some fat with our vitamin A rich foods so we can absorb the vitamin A better. So say we're having a salad with some carrots. We might want to put some olive oil dressing on it so that we can better absorb our vitamin A, and helping to support our eyesight, our eye health, also lots of other things we can see. I'm not going to go into the detail on all these slides because I want to try and keep this to around half an hour. But you can review these slides later. I put a link in the series so that you can go ahead and get right to the slides. Let's go ahead and go to vitamin D. So vitamin D, we do get largely from our sun exposure. And right now it's so hot here. So I am getting some sun when I'm outside. But it's really important for our calcium absorption, for our immune system, for our metabolism. Important to take a vitamin D supplement if we're not getting outside enough. There are some foods we can get some from, but mostly we're going to get it from being in the sun. And most folks, you should have your vitamin D measured, see if you should be taking a vitamin D supplement. We can help with like what level of supplementation you should be doing based upon what results we see in your blood work. And again, with vitamin D supplementation, even we want to take that with a food that has, with a meal that has some fats in it so that we can absorb the supplement as well. Um, Vitamin E, another one of the 4 fat soluble vitamins. This is a major antioxidant protecting, against free radical damage in the body. So, foods that we can get this in are like oils, egg yolks, nuts, sunflower seeds, whole grains. Um, um, Recently, I've been trying to make whole grain, 100% whole wheat sourdough bread. So, and the sourdough actually can help to make the vitamin E more absorbable, more readily available to the body, that fermentation process. So, if you can find your whole grain bread and find a sourdough version, even better. Um, Vitamin K, so important for blood clotting, right? Vitamin K is made in our intestines. Our body can synthesize it. And this is why it's really important to have a really healthy microbiome and have our intestines in good shape, because then our body is able to make vitamin K. And this is another one that can be helpful with bone strength as well. So you can see some of the foods listed here. It will be available in small amounts in fermented foods, and those fermented foods are going to help to make your microbiome and your intestines healthier so that you can produce it as well. I love like at least a tablespoon of fermented foods daily. Um, so this is what I did in Chronometer. If you are experimenting with Chronometer after macronutrients, you could now take a look at Chronometer and tracking the micronutrients, the vitamins, and the minerals. And so this was just a day of looking at whether or not we could get our vitamins to 100%. Vitamin D, like I said, is really going to be from outside. So it was started with a breakfast of spinach and feta scramble with kiwi fruit, and then a snack of some almonds and banana. Again, macronutrient pairing there. Lunch was chicken Caesar salad, and dinner was salmon with sweet potato and broccoli, and then another snack of Greek yogurt with blueberries. So you can play with your days. I just put this in as an example. So those were our fat soluble vitamins. But all right, we have fat soluble vitamins. What about our water soluble vitamins? What are the water soluble vitamins? So big, super important one is all the B vitamins, right, for our energy. And so let's talk about the B vitamins. There's a number of them. So we have B1, B2, B3, lots of different deficiencies we can have. I think number one rule you can think in B vitamins is lots of leafy greens. And then for B12, you're going to get that from meats. So if we are vegan, nutritional yeast is going to be our source of B12. So you can read through these and what kinds of things we can experience if we're not getting enough. So mostly what I will see is a deficiency in these two. The folic acid. So if we are not having enough leafy greens, we just don't have enough folic acid in our body. It's really helpful for our energy, I find. And B12 is directly related to energy. You can get types of anemia when you're low on B12. So we can either do, I really like to measure it to know where you're at. And then we can do a supplement, or we can make sure that we're including some sources of like fish, chicken, eggs. And also, one of the things that can be important, and this is where it gets down to that personalized medicine, is whether or not you have enough stomach acid. So in order to break down the B12 in our food, we need enough stomach acid to be able to absorb it. So sometimes when I see people are having low absorption of B12, it can be related to some digestive issues. Um, and then vitamin C, of course, we've heard of this one, right? We can get things like increased bruising or gum infections, and long-term deficiency, right? We've seen this in the movies, all the people on the boats with scurvy. But sources, some of the fruit sources are listed there. Some of my favorite sources there are like strawberries. Berries are so good for you, really loaded in um, vitamins and minerals, and don't raise blood sugar as much. So that's a great source of vitamin C. So I get to the minerals. So we did the vitamins. The vitamins are, our micronutrients that are based in carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. And then the minerals are based in the other elements. So you can see our dietary minerals here on the periodic table. Some of the most important ones I've highlighted are, we're going to go over calcium and magnesium, iron, zinc, chromium, and iodine. We need them all, but in the effort of time, we'll just go over those few that I see most in my practice. So calcium, right? A lot of us are aware of this, especially, menopausal women, as we're trying to maintain bone strength as we age. We're thinking about calcium. And so what would you think would have the most calcium? Like a cup of milk, a cup of yogurt, a cup of chickpeas, a quarter cup of almonds, cup of cooked collard greens. It depends a little bit on which database you're looking at for how much calcium is present, and because it's going to depend food to food, right? It's not all created equal, but it's kind of revealing to take a look here. I've listed some numbers here, and so actually those collard greens are really high in calcium. So they're at 359 milligrams. But those are all good sources. The almonds are not going to be as high, but they're the best nut source for calcium. And of course, we're trying to prevent, low bone mineral density, the osteoporosis, osteopenia, with making sure that we're getting enough calcium. And just a side note, it's not just calcium for osteopenia and osteoporosis. There's a lot of other factors involved. And one of them is definitely like weightlifting, weight-bearing exercise. That's high on my list. One of my favorite foods here, dark chocolate. I usually go for 80% or darker, but at least if you could get to 70% or darker, that's going to help to minimize the sugar and maximize the benefits of the dark chocolate. Which mineral is it? So I can tell, like, when I start to be low on this mineral, I actually start to crave the dark chocolate more. And it is magnesium. So I think something like 70% of the US is low in magnesium. I see this a lot in my practice. Restless leg syndrome shows up a lot. Even insomnia, like magnesium can help a lot with sleep. And there's a few different types of magnesium I use in my practice. So it's good to have a one-on-one consult, and then we can go over like which form is best for you, because it's different depending upon a number of different situations. So also, aside from dark chocolate, you can get magnesium from these other foods listed here: spinach, Swiss chard, pumpkin seeds, almonds, black beans. It's our like calming mineral. It really helps with stress. So if we are at increased stress, then we know we have an increased need for magnesium. What about iron? So if we eat iron-rich foods, do we absorb all of that iron from the food? Like when we see the list of the number of milligrams, do we get all of those? No. So this is the thing with iron, is that our meat-based iron sources are much more readily absorbed than our plant-based sources. So we would call it heme iron or non-heme iron. So ways to increase absorption are adding vitamin C. Vitamin C helps with iron absorption. So if we're having, say, like maybe some steak, we could marinate it in a lemon marinade, and that could help with absorption. Or if we're having some like spinach salad and it's a plant-based source of iron, include some lemon juice in our salad dressing, and that can help with absorption. Cooking in cast iron can help give us a little bit of iron boost, and we want to eat our iron sources away from tea or coffee because that will inhibit absorption. And if we're looking for iron from beans or grains, we want to make sure that we soak them before eating them so that we remove some of the phytates, which inhibit absorption of iron. So some of the foods that we can have here are listed here. Some of, like, we know, like anemia is one of the side effects of low iron, and you will feel tired and fatigued from anemia. You're not getting enough oxygen in your body, so you just are not going to feel yourself. And I've had some patients with low iron feeling just very, very poorly. And when we can replace the iron, they feel so much better. Also, appetite for non-edible substances. That's this pica. So sometimes when you're low on iron, we'll want to chew on ice, or even like other. Some people want to eat dryer lint, I've heard of, or ice is the most common, and that can be a sign that you're low in iron. Zinc. So zinc helps with our taste buds. And it helps with our immune system and can help with mental health. So some sources here of zinc are spinach, sesame seeds, mushrooms, pumpkin seeds. This is another one. Sometimes we'll supplement with zinc as well, especially for, targeting immune system or some of our appetite. Chromium is one that supports blood sugar, so really important. This will usually be in a multivitamin. I guess that's a good chance to say that our foods that we have now just do not have the same nutritional content that they did like 10 or 20 years ago. So I really do advise that everyone take a multivitamin just to boost the micronutrients, the vitamins and minerals, because our foods now just do not have the same level of these vitamins and minerals that they used to. So I kind of recommend it across the board, a multivitamin. And moving on to iodine. So iodine is really helpful for thyroid health. It's necessary. And we can get this from food sources, best food sources like sea vegetables, those seaweed snacks. Those are a good source of iodine. And then iodized salt. But some of us, since we're moving away from iodized salt, maybe to including sea salt, we're not getting the iodine anymore. So important to include some of those sea vegetables. Here is a recipe that I did a micronutrient analysis on, and it's got all of our top micronutrients. This is delicious black bean chili. It's also vegan, and avocado cream. Delicious. So if you want to try out a new recipe, you can take a look at that, and all of the data is included on the analysis in Chronometer, see all the vitamins and minerals on the right. And it's something that you may want to play with. So our take-home activity for this week, maybe try one new food from a micronutrient group you're low in. Like if you feel like, I do think I could use more magnesium, maybe try a new magnesium-rich food. Or I love this option too. Track just one day of your micronutrients in Chronometer and notice which ones you're low on. Or maybe try the fat soluble vitamin day that I had here and see how you feel. eating that way. And actually, I will say maybe tracking more than one day could be helpful, because it's trends overall. Like if we see, we're probably not going to be able to get 100% of all of our vitamins and minerals every day. But if we see, oh, I'm just generally always low in iron, or I'm always low in vitamin A, then that's something that we may want to tweak our diet to increase in that area. And with tracking, we can see those trends. And here are some references I used for putting together these slides. And that is all I have for today, but I will join you again for phytonutrients next. So have a wonderful day, and thank you for watching.